course. My name is Deanna Alba. I am in the College of Letters and Science, which is where the English major is housed. And with me today is Professor Blasini, who is in the English department as well as film studies, and Professor Lane Hall, also from the English department. So I'm going to turn it over to them to start the presentation.
Okay, Gilberto, it's it's you, and you just tell me when you want me to forward the screen. So I'll do that right now.
So Annabeth, do you mind if I ask you, do you know anything about English before I start my presentation, or like know where to go? Is there an area that you're more interested in?
Not really. I just really like to read, and I'm still like deciding what I want to do.
Okay.
So English is just an option for me.
Okay. And you're coming in as a freshman, right? Or are you transferring?
Yeah, I'm going to be a freshman this coming fall.
So, of course, if you like reading, English is a perfect place to come, but a way of thinking about it, English is going to be about reading and writing. That's actually many majors, but part of the interesting element about English in here at UWM is that our department has different areas. And I think that this is something, maybe if you go to the next, might be the next slide, Lane. It has different areas that you can concentrate on or take classes in. Lane, can you click?
Is that moving for you?
No.
That didn't go to the next slide?
No.
Oh, no. Okay, I don't understand why, because it is for me. Okay.
It doesn't matter. I can recite them from the top of my head. So there's different, when you come to English, there's different options that you have. You can do there's different tracks, and we call them tracks. The first one, it's called Literature and Cultural Theory, and that's going to be closer to what you have done in high school. So you're going to be taking classes in very specific historical periods, specific authors, genres. So it could be a class on Shakespeare, it can be a class on women writers. So the idea there would be that the main object of study is literature, drama, poetry, prose. So that is the more traditional way of thinking about English. Our second track is called Rhetoric and Professional Writing. And in that track, the emphasis is not only on writing, but of thinking about how writing works. So the rhetoric part would be to think about how do we think about writing as in terms of persuasion, in terms of conveying information. It's the previous one, Lane.
Does that work?
Yes.
Okay.
So I told you already about literature and cultural theory. Now I'm telling you about rhetoric and professional writing. So in that track focuses on writing in different iterations or ways of thinking about it. So a number of classes are about thinking of how writing works. In terms of argumentation, some of them are very much concrete ways in which, and we had someone else. Hi, Lindsay. Sorry, I saw that someone else joined us. Thinking about writing in very specific professional contexts. So it could be legal writing, business writing, writing for health science, writing for engineering. In many ways, writing in those very professional contexts is at the core too of this track. If you're interested in writing fiction or poetry, then that would be creative writing. And right now that's our more popular track. And in that track, the emphasis is on the workshops where you would be working with your own specific materials, be they fiction, be they poems. We have special classes where you can write more in dramatic ways, or one of our star professors, Professor Brenda Cardenas, who was Milwaukee Poets Laureate. She teaches a class called Text for Performance. So in that particular class, everything that you write has this, the idea is that it could be performed in one way or another. And that could be from a monologue to a play to a poem to doing, in an open mic situation. Workshops are smaller in terms of the number of students in them. There's only 15 students. So this is in part because of the intensity of the experience, right? The students are going to be bringing their work, sharing them with the professor, the other students. There's going to be commenting on that, and Lane could tell us later a little bit more about that. He has taught in creative writing. And then the last specific track that we have is media, cinema, and digital studies. So in that track, it's closer to the one on literature, but the object of studies are going to be films, TV shows, video games, etc. And it's a track that is comparative, so you have to take at least one course in cinema, at least one in television, at least one in digital studies. So the idea is to think about how each one of these different mediums might relate to the other, might be doing something specific, but also how they shared certain kinds of languages, images, etc. Finally, as of last January, we have now an open focus track. And it's a track where you take classes in all of the 4 tracks. It's not a free-for-all, there's still some form. And everything that we do in English is focused in terms of it's all about developing reading skills, writing skills, how to analyze texts, how to communicate better, both in written form and in oral form, and somehow how to understand the world in many ways. What many of the classes allow us to do is to understand better our surroundings, our world, and the place that we have in it. So if I can hold for a second. Hi, Lindsay. Are you interested in one area more than the others? I just asked Annabeth, so I want to know if that's the case for you too.
I'm kind of thinking literature and what was it, cultural
theory. Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards right now.
Okay, so and which is also what Annabeth somehow suggested, part of what you want to think about there too is that in that particular track, there's a writing component, so you could still take classes in creative writing. There's a theory component, or at least one class in theory. That theory class could be done in literature, but it could be done in cinema, in digital studies. So you still have the opportunity of taking classes across all of our different tracks. So for the 2 of you, my main suggestion would be that you should take the Introduction to English Studies, it's English 215, as soon as you can. And as soon as you can would be as long as you have satisfied English 102. It's a class that will give you credits in the humanities, so that's a good incentive as to why to take it. And it's a class that right now, most of the sections are taught by core faculty. So one of the things in English is that by and large, all of the undergrad courses, at least at the upper division level, are mostly taught by core faculty members. So it's people who are, who are and have been in the department for a long time and are committed to it, and are clearly connected to the mission of the department. Would you add something to all that, Lane?
No, that's a good. So I've taught the English 215 multiple times. I love teaching it, and as Gilberto says, it's a really great introduction anyway, whether people go on to be majors or not. But You have to have it in order to go on from there, but it's a really fun course.
And just also in general, and just and then maybe Deanna can chime in later after me. When you come to UWM, you will have an advisor who will help you with general requirements. So if you look at your screen, it would be those that are in gray, other requirements. I only deal with English, so I would be advising you about courses specifically within the major. The major is 36 credits. That means 12 classes. And if I'm correct, by and large, most majors at UWM are the same number of classes. So do you want to say something, Deanna, about the other requirements?
Sure. Yes. And, at the beginning, I think, Annabeth, you mentioned you were kind of considering several majors. Yes, most majors are around the 36 credit mark until you get into the sciences, which do tend to be a little bit heavier requirement. But in terms of other requirements, these are the ones required to graduate for all of our majors. So it doesn't matter what major you pick in the College of Letters and Science. Everyone does one course in the fine arts. That's going to be something like art appreciation, music appreciation, theater, something along those lines. 12 credits in the social sciences. Those are all classes that have to do with human beings, their behavior, their actions, and society as a whole. So subject areas like political science, economics, some history, psychology. Those are kind of the popular areas that students pick from. In all of these areas, you do have a lot of choice. So you will have dozens and dozens of classes to pick from. And as you'll see in the humanities area, our requirement is also 12 credits, but 6 of those credits are naturally going to come from the English major because of what's required. And then the other 6 you will get outside of English. Other humanities would be things like communication, philosophy, trying to think what some of the other popular ones are. Art history is a popular choice for the humanities. All of our majors do have to take some natural science as well, 12 credits, which is usually 3 to 4 courses, depending on which courses you take. And one of those has to be a lab. So you can do 1 lab and 3 lecture-only sciences would satisfy this requirement. For the English major, we do require through the 4th level of a world language other than English. So that means if you have done 4 years in high school, let's say you finished through Spanish 4, you have satisfied that requirement already and do not have to take more, but certainly can if it's an interest of yours. And if you do have some advanced language skills, a lot of times you can get retro credits if you continue on a little bit. So that can be something worth considering. If you didn't do 4 years of a language in high school, you will need to go through the 4th level of a language in college. So that's going to be 4 semesters typically. Let's see, we require 1 course in U.S. cultural diversity. English 101 and 102 are also required. As Professor Blasini said, you finish 102 before you can get into that first course in the major, which is that English 215. And then for math and statistics, English majors would need to take 1 semester of college algebra and 1 semester of statistics. And then we have a 3-course international requirement. So that's going to be things like perhaps history of Russia or literature of Ireland, things that cover international content. And again, things can double count. So if you do happen to take maybe literature of Ireland, that might count towards the English major and towards the international requirement.
Did that change, Deanna, the screen?
Yes.
Yes, it did. Yep.
Okay. Gilberto, you want to go on?
Well, let me start on it and see if Deanna can correct me or not here. But one of the things also to keep in mind or to think about, students need 120 credits to graduate. And as I told you before, the major is only 36 credits. So one way of achieving that 120 credit number is by adding a minor or a certificate to your major or to double major. And sometimes it's easier, this is something that you can start planning right away. Sometimes you find your way into a minor or a certificate just by the classes that you're interested in. These are some of the ones that are more closely aligned with English in many ways because of the classes that we offer. And there's some kind of more kinship between them, cultures and communities. And we have several classes that count in that particular one. Celtic Studies, something that, as Diana was saying, we have at least a couple of faculty members who teach classes in this area. So you would be taking classes, that count as English and for Celtic Studies, Film Studies, which I'm a part of, and that it's housed under English too. So there's a number of classes that you could take, as I was telling you also before, even in literature and cultural theory. We teach a class every semester called World Cinema that counts for that international content that Deanna was speaking about, and that the topics change every semester. So it could be French New Wave, which is going to be offered in the fall. I teach a class on Latin American women directors. We have had classes on Scottish cinema, Bollywood, etc. So there's a lot of connections there. LGBT studies and women and gender studies, those are very much closely aligned to some of the classes that stem out of the literature program here at UWM too. So that would be a great affinity. And business and technical communication, this is connected to that track in rhetoric, but it's not exclusively connected to it. So it's something else that you could do. Let's go to the next one. So
Yeah, I'll speak on this. So that the minors, that's just a small subset of some possibilities. I've worked with English majors who are minoring in science and art and in other kinds of like digital art and culture. There's one of the benefits of a large university is a lot of diversity. So I run our internship program. I coordinate it, and the internship it's not a requirement, but it's really cool in that upperclassmen in the English major can get credit for doing outside work, kind of building a portfolio in writing specifically, in writing for professional contexts. And we have placements right now. These are groups we've worked with, but right now I have an intern working at Urban Ecology Center, one with Milwaukee Riverkeepers. I've had a number with ACLU who are just like right in the mix of social justice and voting issues, and they're doing really significant work, grant writing, social media, manuals, and really great stuff. So we have a lot of connections in the community, and we really are trying to encourage those links so people, our students, understand how things can apply out in the world. And then there's also a lot of opportunities for our undergraduates to do real research, not just answering the questions in a class, but actually working with archives, working with various projects that might be run through the undergraduate research office, but also through the projects that specific professors and groups are doing. So you could see some examples here, and so like the Archives for Social Change, our special collections library has all kinds of histories of social activism. We have some incredible film archives, and you know, it's just really exciting to go in to do primary research. The Here are some extras that a lot of our students engage. As Gilberto said early, our creative writing program is really top notch. I mean, just you know, nationwide, it's really highly ranked and highly respected. And through that, we have both Cream City Review, which is a literary review, and we have Furrow, which is a literary review that publishes undergraduate writing from people all around the country, and both are award-winning. Furrow is actually run as a course. Cream City Review takes some of our interns, and it's run by our graduate students. So it's really cool, and you get hands-on experience with how to edit from beginning to end, from curating it to printing and distributing it all the way, you know, all the way through. It's really fun. Lot of visiting artists, visiting lecturers, visiting writers, doing talking about their craft, talking about their recent books, doing readings, poets that come in and do readings, series we call United We Read, which is collaborations between student faculty doing readings in the community. They're really exciting. They're just really fun. Some of those are just like out in, you know, they're just events in Milwaukee, so we have a big presence in the city. And then advising and mentoring, I'll turn this back over to Gilberto.
Okay, and before I move on to that, so maybe just a couple of things to add to what Lane was saying. The internship program, you have to have junior standing to go into it. So this is something for you to look into the future. And you can take it up to 9 credits. So like you can like roughly think about it. You can do it up to 3 times for 3 credits. And but the idea would be to do it in different places, right? And you get credit for it. So for both of you, Annabeth and Lindsay, literature and cultural theory has 9 credits in elective, so this could be part of your elective, so keep that in mind. And Furrow, as Lane said, comes out of a class that Professor Valerie Lakin teaches. She's one of our fiction writers. So you could enroll in that class, get 3 credits for it, and learn about editing and publishing. It's a really popular class. Caveat once again, because it's based on the model of workshops, it's only 15 students, so it tends to fill up really quickly, but students really like it. 2 years ago, a national organization awarded the Furrow the National Award for Content for undergrad magazines. So you will be learning, and maybe this is something for you to keep in mind in terms of English. There's many ways in which you translate everything that you learn through reading and writing, and you can make it more practical. And it doesn't just need to be by taking business writing. So there's different ways in which you can, you can employ what you're learning. And no matter what, reading and writing are important. I always try to tell students, think about, for whatever profession you go, if you're going to put together a grant, you need to be able to write clearly, persuasively, hopefully, in ways that are appealing. So no matter what kind of area of English you go to, you're always going to be analyzing, writing, reading. So this is going to be really helpful. So a couple of things, and maybe I'll use the chat to give you a couple information or 2 things. So as I said at the beginning, I would be the advisor with everything that connects to English. I am rotating out of this position in August after 7 years. So my colleague, Professor Michael Newman, is going to be taking on these advising positions. So I'm just giving you his a link so you could see like his information. But basically, what we're here for is to help you understand English, your classes, help you with selecting courses. If there's things that you want to talk about in general about the major, moving forward to grad school, etc., I'll help you with that too. So usually one of the good things too is that in our department is that all of the faculty is really involved. So let's say that you both come, you decide to become English majors, you're doing literature and cultural theory, all of the faculty will be welcoming for you to contact them, talk more about the classes, think about areas. Currently and next year too, Professor Mark Neslov is the person in charge of literature and cultural theory. So know that there's someone that is exclusively dedicated to the major, that anything related to your major. But aside from that, you will have an LNS advisor. And those are the advisors who would look at all the other classes that you need to take in order to fulfill that 120 credits, make sure you have your language, you have all of those other requirements that Deanna talked about. There's really great communication between LNS and me. So this is really good in terms of, if you're having some issue or something, I can look up who your advisor is and then say, okay, so you need to talk to Laura or you need to talk to Ian and they'll help you out. So it's just two different places, two different sources of support. One is more connected to your major. One is more connected to the overall requirements that you have for English. I'm not sure what else we have here planning.
So we have just, a lot of times students come with anxiety, sometimes from themselves, sometimes from their parents, who kind of say, yes, but what are you going to do, with that liberal arts major, or that humanities major? And we have good career planning. Gilberto's already touched on some of that. Things like the internship program helps with that. And it's never too early to begin thinking about that as you go forward. And then here are some of those possibilities that Gilberto was mentioning. And I really see this as I place our interns. I've been doing this for 2 years now, and we have people not only all over Milwaukee area, but we work with a couple of book publishers out in Denver and people remotely. And our students, I'm really pleased. It's like always just a real kind of great energy. I've so far never had any problems or disappointments on the part of our supervisors and mentors out there. So we're doing something right, and our students are like super smart and capable and diligent and responsible with this stuff. So you could see a lot of the kinds of things that are done with, particularly with writing and professional communications. Here are some alums. I was laughing at this. I had Chris Elst, this actor up here. I had him in a course, a long time back, which I thought, oh yeah, he was looked exactly like that even then. And you could just see, it's always nice to see, what people go on to do. And this could be an exhausting list. It would be actually interesting to see a whole website of this. But there's just been a lot of people that have come through. So we have a pretty good network of alums. And I'll give this to Deanna because this is kind of her area. And then this is our last slide, and then we'll Q&A.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll just add, all the conversation about internships and getting experience. One of the most important things that you should have in mind as you enter your college career is that you want to leave college with more than just a degree. You want to leave with a resume. You want to have some experiences. You want to be able to show that first employer, things you have done, or if you're applying to grad school, research you've accomplished, things like that. So we're really focused on that at UWM, and that's how all of our advising is geared. It's not just about getting you into classes, getting you out of classes, and giving you a diploma at the end. It's really about spending the next 4 years getting that well-rounded experience that's going to help you achieve your first step after college. So I encourage you to take advantage of every opportunity available to you at UWM, which will be many. So next steps after you're admitted. Keep on top of your pause record. That's really your home base for everything. If you log into your pause account now, you will probably see a few things on the first home screen in your to-do list. We're going to post everything there that you need to do next, and it'll have information about how to complete that. One of the items you're probably going to see soon, if you don't already, is an intent to enroll form. This is going to replace the $150 confirmation deposit. We've decided not to require a deposit anymore, and you can, instead of paying that, just fill out that intent to enroll form. This will be your way of indicating to us that yes, you do plan to enroll, so that we can get your file ready for orientation, get you an assigned advisor, start looking at things that might impact your course placement. So the deadline to really do that is May 1st, but if you do make your commitment decision early, please do that earlier than that. Next, we will be sending out information about course placement soon. We are, in these COVID times, we would normally have some in-person placement testing, but we are not doing that. So we are working on our plans for how to give you an assessment of where you should start with math, English, and a language if you do decide to take a language course. So watch for that. It should be coming out soon. All of our new freshmen are required to either live in the campus dorms or live with a parent or guardian. So by May 1st, you will want to fill out that housing application if you're going to do the dorm option, so that the earlier you do it, the better chances you have of getting your first choice. Or if you are going to live at home, then you do need to file the housing exemption so that we know that. Then in June and July, we will be hosting orientation sessions. You will need to sign up for that. And at that appointment, you will meet with your advisor, you will pick your classes, and you will leave with your fall schedule. So one of the things you could do in the meantime before that happens is to just browse our schedule. I bet you're going to find a lot of courses that sound interesting to you, and you can kind of make a list so that when you meet with your advisor, you can say, hey, I kind of really want to try this course out. You'll find our schedule online if you just Google UWM course schedule. I don't believe it's quite out there yet for fall. I believe that will come out, I don't know if Gilberto knows the date, March something. So it should be out within a couple weeks here.
It's going to be a little bit later this year. The deadline is the deadline for submitting, department submitting information is Monday.
Okay.
I would say that for sure by the end of March, if not the beginning of April, it will be there. But that still would be lots of time and lots of available classes once you come into the advising. I'm forgetting the name of it. NSO, New Student Orientation.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm going to take off the PowerPoint so I can see people as well. And if y'all have any questions. If you do have questions, be sure you unmute, and we're happy to talk with you about anything, whether they're courses or even if you're thinking about double majors or other majors. We quite happy to hear your thoughts.
I am curious exactly how does a double major work?
You want me to start?
Go ahead, Deanna.
So it kind of depends what your other double major would be. If it's something outside of the College of Letters and Science, let's say business perhaps, you would want to make your primary major the one that is outside of the College of Letters and Science. This gives you the advantage of having a few fewer general education requirements to fulfill. And then for the English part of the double major, you would just complete the requirements for the English major then. If both of the things you select are in the Letters and Science College, then that's fine, and you kind of just complete our general requirements and then the requirements for both majors.
I'm curious what you're what you're thinking of. Do you have any even a few thoughts of a couple of majors?
Psychology.
Yeah.
History.
I've worked with a number of students who are psych majors as well. I don't know why, but I have. We get a lot of history double majors as well, but I've had a lot of psych majors, and even there, then there's always the choice: do you go into behavioral or clinical or counseling or whatever? So it's a rich possibility.
What I would say about it, for example, independently, so it's good if you're thinking already about these, because sometimes it's just about planning, right? It's just to make sure that you know you're not taking classes that any class that you take. Let me backtrack. Good thing about psychology is that psychology and English are both in Letters and Science, so they have the same general requirements. So if you take your first year to take classes within the general requirements in Letters and Sciences, that helps both majors. And then you slowly start to take the lower division courses like the Introduction to English Studies, Introduction to Psychology. And then that way it all becomes about planning. So in many ways, part of the idea would be just to know how to organize your classes so you can fit them within that 120 mark. There's not overlap between psychology and English, but that's not an issue. Some majors have overlap, and that literally means that you can take a class. So if you were in English and comparative literature, let's say, and you take a comparative literature 316, that also is a class in English. So one class functions for both majors. But I would say it's about knowing which classes to take. So it would be very much about having a good communication with your LNS advisor once that advisor is assigned to you.
I'll also add that I think sometimes students worry about that it'll take longer to complete a double major and they're going to be in school for 5 or 6 years. Professor Blasini is right. If you plan ahead of time, you can still do a double major in 4 years. Many students do. So.
And there shouldn't be any stigma to 6 years. That's what it took me to do a BA. So, but maybe now I'm showing my colors.
Yeah.
Lindsay, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I'm interested in going into publishing like after undergraduate. So I was just wondering, what are like the internship placements that I could have while I'm at UW Milwaukee?
So that's a great question. So when earlier we were talking about the Furrow and Cream City Review, sometimes our people interested in editing and publishing are coming at it from a kind of professional and business writing space. Sometimes they're coming from more creative writing, like I'm a fiction writer and I want to go into publishing. But regardless of that, doing the Furrow class with Valerie Lakin and working from start to finish with the publication of a very significant project gives you something like in hand, like I worked on this part of it. Then one of our undergraduate internships is with Cream City Review, which would continue that kind of work. Then in terms of the world of publishing outside of that, we have an ongoing relationship with a publishing house out of Denver called Dzanc Books. It's hard to pronounce. It's DZANC, Dzanc Books, and they do a lot of fiction and short story and literary publishing. Our interns work remotely entirely, COVID or pre-COVID, because it's in Denver. But they're actually doing like reading the manuscripts that come in from writers, and they're doing kind of like the first tier that happens in publishing houses of like, this one goes to the next step, this one still needs work, goes back to the writer. So in that way, they're getting very real publishing and kind of editorial experience with that. We also have other, I often every semester place a student with UWM public relations who's working with our internal marketing person. Deanna, maybe you know him, John Schumacher, who's in public relations. And he's great because he's really rigorous. I mean, our students are working on stuff that actually goes out representing the university, and John is, the students love him because it's no nonsense. He's not coddling anyone because his job is on the line with it, but he's also really fair and really good at teaching it as it goes along. So we have all those that are like, if you ask me about the specific field of publishing, they're like they connect in that way. But I've also done placements with students at like Wisconsin Legal Action, where they're doing case reviews, and in this case they were working with cases about domestic violence that were actually going into law. So they were like more on a pre-legal, paralegal. We're doing kind of the editing for publishing within that field. And then we have people working within environmental field, more doing things like social media and grant writing. So in some ways, those are all publishing, but I think what you're talking about are more like that first part of like actual literary publishing. And you might even look in English. Our plan B is a more kind of like professional writing. It's called, rhetoric and composition and professional writing, or Gilberto can correct me on that, but it's a plan that's really focused around that field. So you might look at that as well.
There is a course called Editing and Publishing that I've been pushing that we haven't offered in a while, but I've talked to at least 2 faculty members who are thinking of teaching it, not next year, but the year after. So these are usually junior standing courses. So I think they will be available when both of you have already accrued enough credits to get into those courses.
Yeah, and one of the things with the internship is like when you're getting there, close to that, be assertive about it. And if I'm still doing it or someone else, contact the coordinator early on, because every one of those situations is a custom situation. It's not like, it's offered as a class and you get credits for it as you would in a class, but part of what I do is upfront work individual customized situation with the specific interests of a student and a specific placement. So it's those publishing positions will fill up, and people who are kind of in, have been working with that coordinator will be in a good position with them. Anything else? Any other questions? Well, we've probably thrown way too much information at you. And we hope it was useful, and all 3 of us are here. I'm chair of the department, and Deanna is just obviously really brilliant with this stuff from the larger scope of the university, and Gilberto is available and accessible, and as you could see, really charming. So
and
so,
wearing an English T-shirt too.
and
I
yeah,
should
you get a major gets a Right Now T-shirt, which is a really good T-shirt. Even my son wears one. I stole him one. Don't tell anyone. So any questions you have, feel free to ask, to contact if you have, you can get through to Deanna, or just Gilberto will post his email address.
Yeah.
And any kind of questions, and hoping you come here and hoping that we see you, but anything we can do to kind of smooth your time and take out some of the anxiety. I know it can be overwhelming at first, but we're here to make it work.
Yes, thank you both for attending today, and do not hesitate to reach out if you need anything.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
thanks for having us.
Bye-bye.
Good luck with everything.